I want to thank, of course, our Torah readers, Mark Sussman, Gordy Barris, our Haftorah reader, Jack Light. Started off this morning with Mark Sussman for our pre-Hanukkah Psukei de Zimra, Stephen Rabinowitz for Shacharit, Stacy Whalen for Torah Service in Musaf, Kevin Whalen, our floor captain, our digital Gavies, Hannah, Carol, and Mark Bettman, our Torah Gavies, of course, the same who read in opposite order of Gordy Barris and Mark Sussman. Thank you, everybody. That's what I forgot something. There we go. And I want to wish a happy anniversary to Lynn and Irv Christenfeld, Marlene and Gary Zeitlin. I want to wish a happy birthday this week to Sherry Wasserman, Dennis Deutsch, Stephen Blarski, Betsy Rogowski. Happy birthday, Sherry Lippman, Cheryl Nathanson, Abby Revenstock, Scott Siegel, and Martin Gross. Happy birthday. Mazel tov to everybody, of course. So I want to ask you, please, I want you to think of a time when you were scared. Not the scared that comes when your sibling or friend or child or grandchild jumps out from around the corner in a scary mask. But think of a time when you were really afraid of something very real in the world. Think for a minute. A perceived danger, a potential perceived danger. And how did you respond? Did you try and run away, shrink into the background so as not to draw attention to yourself? Did you stand up tall, prepared to face what is intimidating you? Something you had to face. Why did you act the way you did? There are many things in the world that scare us. There's no doubt that fear has a very important role in our survival. When we perceive a threat to our well-being, physical, psychological, or spiritual, we, like other higher functioning animals, are programmed to do whatever we can to survive. This means that the first thing we'll do is we'll try and control our surroundings so that we can avoid or mitigate or be prepared for such things. We set up security forces. We set up personal walls. We make sure that we're ready. We build it up in our minds. And yet, when we can no longer control the situation and we're faced with the danger right in front of us, we are faced with the classical psychological and physiological choice of fight or flight. And some people add, I learned, fawn or freeze. Fawn is like placating the danger. Please don't hurt me. I'll give you my wallet. I'll give da-da-da-da. And freeze is the deer in the headlights. Fight, flight, fawn, or freeze. But classic. Last week, I spoke about the anti-Semitic verbal attack at Bethel Synagogue. For those with children or grandchildren who may have been playing on that playground or another playground, when Hassan Shocher pulled into the parking lot spewing his anti-Semitic and racist attacks on anyone in his presence, I have no doubt that you would have been scared, because this is scary. And I watched videos of it, and it's scary. There are people out there who would like to do us harm, who would like to intimidate us, such that we retreat back into our little shtetls and are never heard from again. I am absolutely, and you all know this, a kumbaya, why can't we all get along type of guy with a general positive outlook on the world. But I also know very well that hatred and evil people in the world will continue as far as we can see, as far as we can, until humanity one day finds the inspiration to actually turn our swords into plowshares. There will be evil. So where does this leave us as a Jewish nation? A Jewish nation who's been given a unique mission of bringing blessing and light to the world. How do we do this when we're met from time to time with such virulent hatred? A hatred that scares us and a hatred that can cause us to think about veering from the course that God gave us of spreading light. What do we do? For real, it is scary. And I can understand the desire to want to build walls higher, to want to hire more armed guards, and to stand behind it all. In our parasha this week, the Torah tells us explicitly, as Jacob was preparing to meet Esau, and it says, Vayira Yaakov me'od vayetzer lo. Jacob was greatly frightened and distressed. And our sages ask, why does the Torah need to use two words? But you could even say three, because there's the emphatic very in there, me'od. Why does it need to use two words in describing Jacob's fear? The Talmud tells us that he was afraid of what Esau might do to him. Esau was strong. Esau had mighty men with him. He was scared. And he was distressed about what he might do in such a confrontation. The rabbis understood that there are two sides to fear. Fear of what might be done to you, and if we are healthy and thinking clearly, then we also should have fear of how we might act inappropriately. When we perceive an external threat, it's normal, it's healthy for us to be afraid. It's fear that keeps us safe. It's fear that keeps us from leaning over the edge of a 500-foot cliff because I'm scared that I'm going to fall. That's good fear. Teenagers don't have that fear. But we also have to recognize how such fear can impact our own actions. And it's here where we face the real danger. Not the danger from the potential threat, but the danger from running away from our mission and the essence of who we are. The fear that can change us and make us something else. Jacob takes multiple precautions in preparation for his meeting with Esau. He makes three forms of preparations. Appeasement, he sends gifts to Esau. He prays to God, prayer. And for military defense, he divides his camp into different groups so that it's prepared for a potential attack. But then the Torah tells us, after taking them, i.e., his children and his wives, across the river, he sent all his possessions and split them up, and Jacob was left alone, and an Ish, a man, an angel, whatever we're going to call it, wrestled with him until the break of dawn. What was he doing alone? Why was he alone? The Rashbam, Rashi's grandson in France 700 years ago, sees this scene through the lens of what is called the escaping prophet. So here it is. Is it possible that Jacob allowed his fear to get the better of him? Is it possible that Jacob succumbed to his fear of meeting his brother and was actually trying to escape like the other prophets of our tradition and run away? When Moses was confronted with the burning bush, what did Moses say? I'm not good enough. I can't do it. I'm not the right person, not me. And as Moses was headed back to Egypt, the Torah says, quote, when they were in the place where they spent the night along the way, God confronted Moses and wanted to kill Moses because Moses tried to run away. But even more blatant is Jonah. Jonah, who sought to escape from his mission of going to Nineveh to warn the people that if they didn't change their ways, they would be destroyed. Jonah fled to Tarshish. God brought a storm, threatened to sink the ship. Jonah was swallowed by the whale, spit up on the land, alive. And finally, Jonah realized, and Moses realized, and Jacob realized that according to Rashbam, despite God's assurances, Jacob was still afraid of encountering Esau. His courage failed him, and he was trying to run away, and so God sent an angel to stop him. All of them were afraid of their mission. All of them got deterred by fear. I'm unworthy, said Jacob. Who am I? Asked Moses. Rabbi Sachs teaches the following. This is all not physical fear with these prophets. This is fear that comes from a feeling of personal inadequacy, fear that causes you to doubt yourself. Who am I to lead the Jewish people, asked Moses. Who am I to deliver the word of God, asked the prophets. Who am I to stand before my brother Esau, knowing that I will continue the covenant and he won't, asked Jacob. Sometimes the greatest have the least self-confidence because they know how immense the responsibility. Rabbi Sachs concludes, and this please take to heart. Courage does not mean having no fear. It means having fear and overcoming it. Courage does not mean having no fear. It means having fear and overcoming it. If that is true of physical courage, it is no less true of moral and spiritual courage. To feel fear is fine. To give way to it is not. For God has faith in all of us, even though at times the best of us lack faith in ourselves. My friends, here we are, 1 week before the holiday, where we are commanded to go outside, face the cold, the dark, and the scary world with our lights shining brightly. 1 week until we have the opportunity to stand up on our own feet, not ignoring the dangers that exist, but taking the proper cautions, and then taking our place as torch bearers, spreading our light for all to see and none to be afraid. Shabbat shalom.